Good Saturday, everyone. This is our Bold Party with Purpose for the month of July. For those who may not know, Bold stands for Beautiful, Outstanding Ladies of Destiny. And our goal here is to inspire, to encourage, to educate, and to uplift each other in a safe space, and also to be able to build community with other like-minded women as we all grow to be the bold women we are meant to be. And this month, we are focusing on facing the superwoman within. But before we dive into that, we will start off with our morning exercise. This one we've done before, call it the backpack exercise. We will begin with some breathing and some nice smooth music. Okay. Anyway, so we'll start off with a few deep breaths. Breathe in and out. And you can feel free to close your eyes during this or try to focus your eyes in one spot. Focus in there. Again, breathing in and out. This time we're going to hold it. Breathe in. Hold it. And out. One more time, breathing in. Hold it. And out. All right. Now I want you to imagine you are in a woodsy forest area. And really see the trees around you, full bloom, tall trees. And what does the ground feel like under you? Allow yourself to feel the solidness, how grounded it is. And on your back, you have your backpack, and it's full. As you start walking through the forest, you notice how heavy it is. How it's weighing you down. You feel the weight all the way to your feet. But as you keep going, you begin to release things out of your backpack. Let it fall along the trail. And as you are releasing, take a deep breath. Notice how lighter you feel. And with each breath, you release a bit more. Another breath, you release a bit more. Go ahead and stretch your neck. Roll it around. Still taking a few deep breaths. Noticing the lightness in your back. Now notice the lightness in your feet. Notice the freedom in your release. And take one more deep breath. And release. And when you're ready, open your eyes. How did that feel? That next stretch was needed for me.
I needed that next stretch for sure. I always have like this pain in my neck, and I think it's the way that I sleep. So that these motions really help to pull it out. So I needed that.
Oh, good. Glad to hear. I like that little backpack exercise. I notice myself when I think about the backpack, like tensing up, and then it helps. Oddly enough, or maybe not oddly, in imagining releasing things, it helps release any tension that I may have had and may not have been aware of. Shoulders. But yeah, glad you all enjoyed it. Now getting into our topic for today, now that we are relaxed and clear. And today we are talking about the Superwoman complex or Superwoman syndrome, and particularly in regards to Black women. And I was actually at church maybe a month ago at this point, and there was a group of us Black women standing around talking, and one of the young ladies mentioned that she had recently gotten a promotion and how she was excited for a little bit, and now she's back in grind mode, trying to figure out what she needs to do, what she can do, how she needs to do it to make it to the next level. And I forget if it was her or another woman in the group. And she was like, why do we always do that? We always feel like our achievements aren't enough. Like we have to get to the next thing. You have to get to the next thing. You have to keep going, 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 going. Excuse me. And everyone kind of left that conversation like, yeah, you're right. And I don't know. But that has stuck with me. And I feel like, especially amongst Black women, and also especially after doing this research, that is very much a complex that many, if not all of us, do share. And with that being so, I felt like it would be beneficial for us to dig into it, to hopefully gain more awareness of it, and possibly some helpful tools for us moving forward that we can use in dealing with it. Because sometimes, as I said in the invitation, it's okay to put down the cape. But I feel like sometimes we have to learn how because it's not something that we usually do or may not feel able to do. Mhm. What is the Superwoman complex? We'll go ahead and start there. And in starting there, we will start with a short video. The young lady calls it Superwoman and Self-Doubt. So she does kind of categorize them separately, but I would argue that they do still come together, relate together, and that the self-doubt is somewhat of a side effect, maybe not side effect, but a trait or characteristic that is produced due to the Superwoman complex.
Seven years ago, I was given the opportunity to create a TED Talk with the charged question, what matters to you? As a 14-year-old girl, the question proved extremely difficult because I was in a weird space where everything mattered to me. So I attempted to break down the aspects of my identity as a way to answer the question. I used that to introduce myself as the girl who thrived off the type of laughter she had with her friends that made her stomach hurt, as the girl who believed so strongly in the strength and perseverance of her community despite witnessing the many failures of the systems around us, as the girl who wanted nothing more than for everyone to get along without a hint of strife or malice. Now, I'm happy to be here as the newly turned 21-year-old woman who moved across the country alone at just 18 years old, who started her graduate degree at 20 years old shortly after being elected as the sole representative of over 98,000 college students across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, as the girl who still FaceTimes a group chat full of her friends at the slightest inconvenience just to hear one of them say that everything will be okay, as the girl who honestly had a really rough last semester but is trying hard not to let that affect the way that she thinks of herself. The power and passion of young women has always mattered to me. So much so that the slightest inkling of doubt in myself increases my desire to prove myself. To who, I'm still not really sure. I managed to convince myself that if there were young women like Cleopatra, Sacagawea, and Claudette Colvin who managed to have their voices heard as pregnant women of color, as women whose voices were constantly challenged, as women who were ruling nations, not only could I be doing more, but I had to. My toxic trait became Superwoman syndrome. Superwoman syndrome is defined as a set of characteristics found in a woman who performs or attempts to perform all duties associated with the several full-time roles, such as wage earner, mother, homemaker, wife. At 16 years old, Superwoman syndrome grabbed my hand and dragged me to a hospital in Atlanta, Georgia for the entirety of my spring semester of my sophomore year of high school. I had become so focused on my volleyball team that I was neglecting my own health as a way to be proud of us making to a national tournament, as a way to be proud of being captain, as a way of being proud of being libero. My entire time in that hospital, I spent floating in and out of consciousness, waking up only to ask questions like, how did the tournament go? And Dad, you think I have a lot of homework to do? My dad looked at me after making it somehow from Dallas, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia in a little under 7 hours and asked the question, who are you if not what you do for other people? As embarrassing as it sounds, I didn't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I then began trying to define myself in terms of success. As a Penn Stater, I asked myself the question, who are you if not what you do for your community? Academically, I'd ask the question, who are you if not a Schreyer Honor Scholar? Then we progress. I try to define mental success. I'd ask myself, who are you if not healthy, wealthy, blessed, and very rarely stressed? And I think it's working, or at least it seems like it does. Lately, I've been getting asked lots of the questions, how do you get over the feeling of being the only person of your identity in the room? Can you help me get out of my head and get rid of that fear? So, I've created this entire talk, been a part of this big production to let you all know that I don't know what's going on all the time. In fact, I rarely do, but I'm trying. Imposter syndrome is defined as the persistent inability to believe that one's success has been deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of their own efforts or skills. Imposter syndrome as a feeling is sitting in the back room of Schwab Auditorium with every speaker from this conference and wanting to hide in a corner because you feel like you're surrounded by people who are just slightly cooler than you are. Imposter syndrome as an experience is walking into your first class on your first day of your first year at the Pennsylvania State University and being asked, how do you feel knowing that only 21% of Black first-generation college students graduate? My answer for that question is the same as it was then. First of all, I'm going to be one of those 21%, so that's fine. But if I'm not, that's okay. The reason behind that being is success does not look like one thing. Coming to Penn State, I left behind my parents, Jamie Brown and Sean Davis, who left their homes at around the same age but for different purposes. who spent years being a little lost and confused, and somehow managed to have the best kid ever. Coming to Penn State, I came to be faced with people like Dr. Lynette Yarger, Associate Dean of Diversity and Equity and Inclusion for Penn State Stryer Honors College and Professor of Information Science and Technology. Coming to Penn State, I was met with students like DeAndre Malcolm, President of Penn State's Black Caucus and co-king, to Jalen Carr for Penn State's 2021 homecoming. Coming to Penn State, I was blessed with Alicia Wellington, my personal meteorologist, with the ability to go to literally any graduate school of her choosing. And as amazing as I recognize and I know that is, I can't do all that. And I don't really want to. So what does that mean for me in terms of success as it's defined in my story, that I can't or don't want to do all of those things? I'd say it emphasizes that I am the master of my own fate, the captain of my own soul. I am writing my story. Here at Penn State, it's impossible to believe that you can do everything as much as you'd want to. Every morning I roll over, I wake up, I choose to be Superwoman or Janiyah, sometimes bold, sometimes I don't really want to be either. But I recognize that my story and the narrative does not end until I choose to do so. My advice to you, everyone sitting here, is to recognize that your story does not end until you do so. As you grow, as you learn, as you're figuring out who you are outside of what you do for other people, all I can ask is that you own it and let it be yours. Thank you.
Okay. So, what do we think of that video?
I could definitely relate to a lot of the things that she was saying. So I was thinking it was going to be a little longer. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, so I was engaged. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
I love how she said,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you rude. No, I'm just kidding. You can go.
No, I was just gonna say I love how she pointed out that success doesn't look like one thing. And I think that we get in our heads about that a lot, especially when we see our friends doing other things and we're trying to maintain our life and our work and personal life. And everybody wants to be successful. Everybody strives for that. And we have to remember that it doesn't look like one thing. There's not one way to be successful. And then the other part she mentioned, I am the master of my fate, I'm the captain of my soul. That sticks with me. That's from the poem Invictus by William Henley. And that's a true statement. It's very powerful. Like, you have to take ownership and be in charge of what's going on in your life, and not lose focus of that.
And Mia, did you want to add more to that?
Yeah, I also like the fact that she was talking about the other people that, were in her life, and that she wasn't like, she didn't have what they had, and that's okay. She didn't want to do all of that. And sometimes I have to realize that I don't have to do all of that. Like, all of that is not necessary for me to do. So, I want to say she was preaching to the choir, but I don't know if that's the right term. She was hitting every note.
Yeah,
No, but it was very insightful.
Awesome. Let me adjust myself. I don't know if this helped any. But yeah, I'm glad that it spoke to you. And I wanted to add to what she shared about the Superwoman complex. And this is from an article that I found called "The Black Superwoman Complex" by Cassandra Callan. And she provides a definition for specifically the Black Superwoman complex, which is also sometimes called the strong Black woman narrative. and it's defined as a cultural icon born of Black women's resilience in the face of systemic oppression that has dismantled families and made economic stability a formidable challenge. She is self-sufficient and self-sacrificing. She is a provider, caretaker, and homemaker, and often she is suffering. How does that speak to you?
No, it seems as though the Superwoman complex, like you're taking on everything, and the suffering is because you put so much on yourself that, I mean, it does weigh you down. Trying to handle everything and play every single role, wear every hat imaginable. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. It is, but a lot of times, you know, when you're in it, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? You just get so dogmatic about trying to do all things that you don't even realize how much you piled onto you, taken into your backpack, right? Or you may be like me, that I've caught myself sometimes feeling like I have to do it all if I do it, so then I don't. If I'm honest with myself, I've been there sometimes. I don't want the cake today, so I'm just going to go over here and smell the flowers and let the cake take care of itself. Or the city, yes, I'm going with the analogy. But yeah, that definitely spoke to me. And there was more in the article. I think I will put the link to the full article in the recap, because it really is a good article. And she even shares about a focus group study that was performed. And it says, in 2010, Cheryl L. Woods Giscombe held 8 focus groups to study the Black Superwoman schema. The participants, 65% of the 48 who were mothers, named unrealistic expectations as key parts of the Superwoman stereotype. Some named feeling expected to show endless strength and always help others. They gave examples such as being expected to never complain or to pretend to be strong even when they don't feel it. Participants also named tiring themselves out by saying yes to every request and taking on others' well-being as their duty. And that really spoke to me, because I felt all of them, especially the pretending to be strong even when you're not. And I'm not sure if you all have seen it, but there's on social media, I've seen a few videos where you see Black women saying, I am not strong, or I'm not the strong Black woman. I don't want to be. I am soft. I need help. I need to be taken care of. And there's a part of me that's like, yeah, sis. And then there's another part of me that's like, hold up, sis. I'm strong. So it's like a little bit of an inner battle there. And they also speak about it in the study, where the women were saying they do like the aspect of feeling like they can get it done, you know, being able to take on all these tasks and being able to knock them out. But you know, there really needs to be a balance, or at least a balancing. Maybe we can't get it all the way here, but maybe just a little, you know, not, you know. So a balancing between the two, I think. Any other thoughts? Mm-hmm. Um, so in thinking about the Superwoman complex and the Black Superwoman complex in particular, excuse me, if you think back, where do you feel it came into or started producing itself in your lives?
Like the beginning?
Yeah, the beginning.
Mm.
To give y'all some
That's hard
time.
to say.
Yeah. I can
I
pinpoint
feel like
mine.
I feel like I've always had that sense of I gotta get it all done. And the older I got, it's just that more responsibilities fell on me. Or I took more ownership of things that I can do now. So I feel like I've always, from a very young age, was like the yes man, always want to do right. I want to take on, I want to do as much as I can, get it done right, say yes to everybody. That's always been me.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel you. I would say it started for me at 12. So at 10, maybe, well, probably 10 actually. I was being babysat by my friend and her sister, and well, mostly her older sister. She was babysitting both of us, and they were doing chores, and so they were able to cook breakfast. They taught me how to make breakfast. They were washing dishes and vacuuming, cleaning up the bathrooms and things. And so I'm with them and I'm doing it with them. And I hear this thing about allowance. And I'm like, what? You get paid? I was like, yes, I'm about it. So I go home and I'm like, I want to take on chores and get allowance. My parents were like, sure. And so then at that point, I started doing everything. I was the dishwasher every night. I cleaned the house every weekend, and we never had less than a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house that I would have to clean. And that would be mopping the floors, vacuuming, dusting. I was able to do that every 2 weeks. Cleaning the bathrooms top to bottom because my dad was military. It had to be spotless. And then somewhere in there, my mom also threw doing the laundry in. Had to do everyone's laundry every week, all by myself, and also uh, doing my schoolwork. Then at 12, my sister started. I told my parents that I could also take care of my sister. Another form of income, I thought, but it was not. And so I started taking care of my sister. So after school, I would have my little snack time and then get her off the bus, give her her snack, help her do her homework, then get to my homework after I sometimes help with dinner and did any other chores that I had to do from the age of 12. So then fast forward, I'm in college. Now looking back on it, I have no idea how I achieved this, but in taking on between 18 to 20 course hours or credit hours, I did that for 3 semesters while holding down a job at one point too, and starting Bold, running Bold, which included a blog that I would research and write weekly, and still had a social life, and was still part of a dance team. So there was rehearsals in there too. I don't know. I can't fathom it now at this age, but I still have some of the remnants of in doing so much then. And I remember my last spring break. I was at my cousin's place in Florida because I went there for spring break, and my other cousins met us there, and they all wanted to go out one night, but we had went to this smoky place the night before, so I wasn't really feeling that great. And so they left me to go out, and I was like, oh, I'll be fine. I'll watch TV. And the sweet relief I felt in turning on an episode of Family Matters and just sitting there. I was like, I don't remember the last time I did this. This is magical. Because I was always so busy, always go, 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 that I did not give myself time to rest or recharge until that moment. I think that was the first time I had done it in at least a year. And I think after that is when I started kind of having the imbalance of either I'm at rest or I am on the go. I never really found that balance. I'm still working on it. But yeah, those are my origins.
I like being on the go though.
Wow.
I like being super busy. So hearing you say all that, I'm like, yes, I remember having that life where it's just like, especially in college, get up and just I was in every thing imaginable, and I was always after class. It was always something else to do. It was rest. What is that?
Okay,
So
what is Oh, and I forgot, I started acting my senior year too. So we were doing production, so there was rehearsals in there. What was I doing? How did I do it? I can't even fathom that. I can't even.
that's cool.
Any thoughts, Mia?
Nope, because I will be talking for a long time, and I'm gonna reserve my voice. I'm just kidding, but all I can say is I can relate. Not to 12. That was a little much. Way to go, you little go getter. I wish my kids had that in them. I was like, you did what? Everybody's
I do all that
laundry.
stuff too.
But you know
Well,
what's
that's
funny? I say that, and I will not let my kids do my laundry. I wish I would let them do my laundry. I really have it bad. I want to. I like things done a certain type of way, and I think that's what also messes me up with the Superwoman, whatever thing that you were saying, because I like things done a certain way, and when I want them done, I want them done now. Now, but yeah, I want them done sooner than later. So it's hard for me to delegate and do all of that because I feel like other people don't appreciate your time or, anything like that. So it's like, I'm not gonna bother them. I'll just do it and get it done because I know I'll get it done right away and I know I'll get it done the way I want to get it done. So it's hard to turn that part off. It's hard to be like, oh, I trust this person, I trust that person to get this done, da 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 da. Nope. And this person may not give me any reason to not trust them. They may not. However, in my mind, I'm like, yo, I need it done now and I need it done right. So let me go ahead and add that task to the 100 tasks I already have. So I think that's my biggest battle.
I agree with that. And Antoinette, you said something earlier that made me think of what Mia said, where, I don't remember what you said exactly. But it really does put you in the mind of you're doing all this stuff, but you feel like I can do it better. Like, and then another thing is like sometimes I know with me, I don't have anybody else to disappoint me if they don't do what I need them to do. So if I put it upon myself to handle it, can't nobody disappoint me. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna get it done. So I feel more comfortable relying on myself than, like Mia said, delegating sometimes with certain things. I'm like, I trust me more. Mm-hmm. So I definitely get it because that is for sure how I do things.
Yeah, and that reminds me of this video I saw. I told Mia before, but it was this lady. She was trying to get her family to leave out of her house, and her sister was filming her. And she was ready for them to go. She was like, go ahead and leave. Go ahead and get out. I don't need none of your help cleaning. Your cleaning is dirty. Go ahead
Yeah.
and grab your stuff and go.
That was funny. Your cleaning is dirty.
Crack me up. It so cracked me up. But that is an example of a Superwoman complex. And it's so seamlessly threaded into us and our society, even that we don't even think about it. But in reading this article, she got into the origins of Superwoman complex, and in some cases, people attribute it going back to slavery. When sun up to sundown, you were working, and even after that, you were working on master stuff, and then at night, for the moms mostly, you had to work on your stuff, take care of your family, cook your food from the scraps that you got, make and do, another thing that's kind of embedded within us. And from there, people also said their familial connections. They saw their moms doing it all, and just kind of naturally they fell into doing it all because that was the example they had of being a woman. So for them to be a woman is technically to be a superwoman, and particularly a Black woman. And then you have the societal pressures as well. And that's why I believe some people say the Superwoman stereotype, the Black Superwoman stereotype, because that is a stereotype. It is so expected of Black women to be able to carry the brunt of things and not complain and to be okay. There was, I forget where, but I read this article, and this successful white man was interviewed, and they asked him what was, kind of like the key to his success. And he said he had Black women as his support. Like, it's something that is expected and quote unquote known in society and our families. So thinking back to those origins, I was like, oh, wow. It is a lot. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I am unmuted. Okay. I always keep it on mute, so I don't know. But no, I wholeheartedly agree that, it's something that we've been exposed to, or like how we were raised. And yeah, a lot of it is embedded in us. Like, I know with me, seeing my grandmother do it, seeing my mother do it, it's like, boom, that's what you're supposed to do. What are you doing? No, I'm just kidding. But I definitely agree with that. So yeah. It's like, how do you turn it off though? Like, how do you, because it's conditioning. If you think about it, you've been conditioned. Certain people, it comes from lack. I always say, like, lack of resources, lack of things, because I know people who were not raised. They were raised and the household was lazy. They wasn't go-getters, whatever. But that person became a go-getter. But that's because that person had to step up and become that for their family. So that's a different type of conditioning. But anywho, I'm just trying to think, as you all were talking, how do you turn that off? At what point do you turn that off? Because, well, it's not even turning it off. It's really about having a healthy balance, because at the end of the day, I would rather my daughter be like this, be more like this, than not. I don't want her to be lazy and feel like she gonna get everything handed to her, or my children in general. I want them to know that you got to go get it for yourself, and nobody's gonna make it happen like you. But at what point do we teach them the healthy balance of that? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm. So glad you asked. Something we're going to get into.
Oh, B asked it. Oh, that wasn't me.
Anything else that you want to add, B?
So, I mean, I do agree with y'all. And I don't have an answer. I don't know how. It's something that can be turned off. Maybe you can turn the dial down, turn the notch down some to, get your balance, depending on what the situation is. But off, it's a little scary for me. I need to, and that probably comes with me trying to semi need to be in control of things. I'm much better than I used to be, but I don't know if there is a way to turn off. But I do agree. I thought I didn't have anything to say, but it does make me think, like when Mia talks about how, when do you start to incorporate that balance to be able to do both and to know when to not turn it off, but to like bring it down a couple notches. It's okay to accept help from other people. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to say no. I think you got to start teaching that at the same time, so that you can see the differences in the times when you need to step in and be that superwoman, or when you can release the reins and fall back a little bit. So maybe I did have the answer. I think start trying to do them at the same time to see the difference.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, if we don't have a direct path, you have to start
Yeah. And so I'm glad that you all are shifting the conversation this way, because I do have another video. And in this one, she talks a little bit more about the Superwoman complex, but she calls it hanging up the cape.
A few weeks ago, I was having a crazy busy day at work. That happens. Mid-afternoon, my phone goes off, and I have an unexpected call from my realtor telling me he's got somebody who is super excited about my house. So excited, in fact, they're going to be there in 2 hours. No problem, I say. I hang up the phone, make some arrangements, and I bolt home because 2 things. 1, I live about 30 minutes away from where I work, and 2, my house was nowhere near ready for a showing. So I'm getting there, I'm getting things done, I'm feeling good. My son comes home and he goes, "Mom, oh, thank God you're there. I forgot that I have a drumline practice. It's all the way across town today. Can you get me there?" Not a problem, I got this. So he decides to be helpful, and he gets 2 of our 3 large dogs in the kennel. Our biggest one, Nikos, refuses to go in. We are now T-minus 20 minutes and counting till our showing. So I figure, you know what? We'll take him in the car, not a problem. So I get my shoes on, I'm bending down, and Nikos thinks that this is an opportunity to play. He comes bounding towards me, and he hits me in the face. And he hits me in the face so hard I think he's broken my nose. The pain is unreal. Sounds that were not my own escape my lips. My eyes are watering so that I can't even see. And my eyesight comes into focus just in enough time to see Nikos backing up and pooping on the carpet. I literally scared the crap out of my dog. And we clean it up, we do the air freshener thing, I get him and my son in the car, and we're going down the driveway, and my car does a little ding to tell me that we're almost out of gas. No problem, we'll get it on the way. So my dog is freaking out this entire car ride, going in and out of the front seat, probably from the events that just occurred. And when we get to the gas station, I tell my son, please hold on tightly to his leash so he doesn't get out of the car. And my son does that. But Nikos is very large, and very strong, and very stubborn. And just as I get both feet out of the car, I feel my dog bounding past me. My reflexes kick in, I grab the leash, and before I know it, I am kneeboarding behind Nikos in the parking lot of a very busy gas station, in a dress. You can see that he is up here. That's Nikos. Love my guy. So we somehow wrangle him in, and I get him in the gas. I get into the gas station. I'm paying for my gas, and as I'm waiting to check out, I see the magazines, and I'm looking at headlines. Lose 10 pounds by next Tuesday. Love your age no matter what. Your best chocolate cake ever. Hotter sex, do it tonight, nail your next promotion or interview. Makeup tricks to look 7 years younger, cute baby crafts that you can make. And my personal favorite, find your balance. And somehow I don't think they're talking about the impressive feat that I just did out in the parking lot. So let's go here and let's put this together, shall we? I'm supposed to bake my best chocolate cake ever, but I can't eat it because I've got to lose 10 pounds by next Tuesday. I'm supposed to love my age no matter what while applying makeup to look 7 years younger. I'm supposed to be a sex goddess making baby crafts while nailing it at the office and feeling balanced. Anybody wondering how we can feel consistently balanced amidst the busyness that is our everyday lives? Not to mention things like work, home, school, family, society demands in general. Anybody reading beyond the headlines to a deeper, more conflicted meaning? I love it that every single time I talk about Superwoman syndrome, it never fails that there's one person that says, yeah, but isn't it a choice? And I get this mental image in my head of these women going through these chaotic situations or waking up one morning and going, to be or not to be Superwoman? That is the question. Is it really? Because I think for many, life circumstances and events happened, and they created the demand for superhero-like energy, strength, and determination. I think of people like the single parents who do it all on their own. I think of people who work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. People who spend their lives constantly caring for others. These are some of the most super people that I know. And while this talk is in part for them, at its core, it's for every single one of us. It's a call to and from our compassion, our humanity, that small voice that sits inside every single one of us and speaks to us in our most desperate, trying, exhausted, lonely moments that says, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Can we please go back and do something different? This internal dialogue is absolutely essential to our lives. But most importantly, what we need to do is we need to get the conversation going on a societal level as to why this needs to be. What I want for you guys today is if we're going to have a educated conversation on Superwoman syndrome, we need to understand what it is that we're dealing with. So essentially, number one, who is she? At her most basic, we could say that she's overworked or she's overcommitted. But a better snapshot of Superwoman is that she works full-time plus, either in or outside of the home. That she has unpredictable hours, that she's constantly connected via technology devices, that all of her job duties equal out to more than one position, that she's the primary caretaker for at least one other person, and many are in that sandwich generation where they're caring for aging relatives as well as the next generation. She still completes all of the duties in the home, or the considerable amount of them, in addition to volunteering for community and additional work responsibilities. Is it any wonder, if this is a snapshot, why these women are at the highest risk of burnout? And if you've ever been burned out, or if you know somebody who has, you can understand how very quickly that this can seep into things like addiction and mental health. The who is important, but what's most important, what's most vital to discuss is why. And in order to really get a good concept of what is happening, I want us all to go back to elementary school for a little bit. Do you remember the seed in the cup? And how if you gave it things like water and sunlight, it grew well and it grew strong? But if you could do the extended experiments and you gave it things like Diet Coke or coffee or soap, what helped it to grow for a little bit and wither away, and what prevented it from growing at all? And the reason why I ask this, and I'm bringing this back here, is because essentially every single one of us, we're all the seed in the cup. Now, of course, we don't grow by photosynthesis, we grow rather by psychosynthesis. And a very basic version of what that is it's a process where we go through different events and we assign the meaning, and our private logic is formed. And our private logic is how we choose to see the world and how we choose to interact with the world. And for Superwomen, very frequently it goes something like this, is that the expectation is given, and we meet or exceed the expectation, and this is from little on. And we're rewarded with things like praise and respect. Acceptance is bestowed upon us, and our private logic is formed and set. And that really helpful construct that we all do to our kids, that do your best, do your best, do your best, do your best, at some point for Superwomen turns into perfectionism. It's insidious in nature because those things, those constructs that helped us to be wonderful at our jobs and to climb social ladders and to get connected, eventually alienates us from other people, and it alienates us from ourselves. We live in a time where women have shattered many glass ceilings. However, many of us work more to earn less. And when I work with women on this concept, many of them say it's not the masculine standards that they're held to that are the difficulty, but it's the things that other women exhibit, say, and do that are the most difficult, and it's the level of competition. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I stand up here today, and I give this talk frequently, because if I'm going to be honest, I have been Superwoman for more of my life than not. The advice I give, I don't give lightly. I had to face my own demons. I had to stare down very difficult demands, and I had to make some difficult decisions. But this process of doing this led me to a life of meaning and purpose and joy and happiness. I have a life that I love, and unfortunately, more people than not that I know can't always say the same. So I have 4 things that I would like to share with you today. And while I understand I'm not foolish enough to think that we can all change our life at the drop of a hat, there are things that we can start doing in this moment. And the first of which is finding our voice. And we do this by identifying the everybody committee and getting to know our essential versus our social selves. As a therapist, when I sit across from people and they start talking about wanting to change, one of the most frequent things that I hear is, oh, if I did that, everybody would be upset. Everybody would have to change. Everybody fill in the blank. When we look at it, it's really not everybody in the entire world. It's about boiling it down 6 to 10 people who we hold in high esteem and whose opinions we value. Yes, it's important to consider others as we're going through our lives, but at some point we need to stop and consider ourselves. It's the old flight attendant adage, when they're doing the intro on the plane, that you have to secure your own mask before you assist other passengers, because if you're no good to you, you cannot be good to anybody else. Our essential selves are what we are when we're at our most peaceful, when we're at our most joyful, when we're in that state of flow where we're humans being rather than humans doing. And this isn't just a leisure time construct. I know people who have taken this into their professional lives and have done absolutely amazing things. Versus our social selves, which is the us when we're on, when we're conforming to the everybody committee, when we're falling into the shoulds of our lives. Life, when it's truly lived, is an absolute gift and can be joyful. But if you're tackling it like an endless to-do list, you are not fully living. When we spend too much time in our social selves, and a social self that we've constructed that's miles away from our essential selves, this is where burnout happens. This is where mental health and things like addiction happen. And these are the things that we need to be very conscious of. Because step 2 is, we need to quit shoulding ourselves. I know people who should themselves to death. I should do this, I should do that, I should be able to handle all of my responsibilities and not feel like I want to keel over. When we put should on any person, relationship, or situation, we are giving it goals that may or may not have. And this is where things like guilt, shame, self-loathing, self-overloading come into play. Should very commonly is equal to restriction and regret. Every single one of us has in common the fact that our time is like our money in the concept that we only have so much. And it's very precious. There is always time to go out and make more money. There is no way to make more time. What are you doing with yours? Quit shooting it away. And the way that we need to do this is priorities versus balance. I'm going to be very honest, I hate the term balance. I've heard people keep putting that in magazines so they can sell the next issue because you didn't find it last time, so maybe you'll find it this time. Okay, it's not about balance. And I love the well or not so well-meaning people that go up to those Superwomen and go, you would feel so much better if you could just balance it out a little bit. It'd be so much easier. It's not about easy. And never say that to a Superwoman, because it's the one more thing that we're not doing or that we're not doing right. And there comes a point when your plate is so overloaded that you can't organize it any further. It's about priorities. The best advice that I can ever give out that will be difficult to follow initially, but will make your life so much easier if you can get there, is identify your priorities, set them, keep them, and live them. This is how you don't should your life and your time away, and it does wonderful, wonderful things. But if we're going to do this, what we really need is to support rather than to separate. We need to hold each other in high esteem. There is room for everybody at the table. We all bring something different, and we need to be able to have the conversation about taking off the cape without another should or another conversation about balance being brought to us. It was fascinating. A few years ago, close to where I teach, there was a group of very well-to-do soccer moms that were busted for a meth ring, and the ringleader was interviewed. And she never wanted to start using methamphetamine. She kind of came into it in a unique way. But she was told that it would help her accomplish all of her goals and her tasks. It would help her lose weight, and it would help her want to clean her house. And it did all those things. And she did this for months. And not one single person asked why she wasn't eating, why she wasn't sleeping. The more she gave, the more was demanded of her. And finally, after her friends going, "I'm so jealous, can you tell me your secret?" she let him in. Not one single person reacted in horror that she had to turn to illegal substances to be able to get through her day. They just asked, "How can I do it too?" And if this sounds like an extreme story, you're absolutely right, it is. But I know people who do extreme things every day, to do it all, do it well, to not let anybody else see them struggle. This can't continue. We need to come together. We need to be individuals that come to build and repair, not destroy and compare. My hope for each and every single one of you is that you found something in this talk today that is inspiring. That later on today, you'll continue sharing this, and maybe again tomorrow, and maybe again in a month or so when this comes up on YouTube. And I'm hoping that you will find times in your everyday lives where you could give voice to this concept. But my question to you is this: what is the voice that you're going to use? The voice of reason or the voice of expectation? The essential self or the social self? My hope for every single one of you is that you quit shooting yourself enough to take off the cape, to know that it's okay, and to take this from an idea worth spreading to an idea worth living. Thank you.
All right. How are we feeling?
Well, that hit home for sure. I'm a shooter. And and as she's saying that, I'm trying to multitask. I was washing the dishes, trying to get everything done today, and being a superwoman that I am. And she's saying, "Don't should your life." I'm like, I am one of those people. So she definitely said many things that it was like, "Oh, Brittany, So I don't know. Every month when we do this, I feel good when I hear these things, and it gives me something to reflect on. So today I'm definitely reflecting on not putting that self like, oh, I should do this, because when you do that, that also sets yourself up for excuses to why you didn't do it. And I'm improving with that. So the way she started her story off, that's how it is. When you have to do something, there's always 50,000 things that come in and try and interrupt what you have going on. And you have to find a way to push through. I'm like, she's going through everything. Nose broke, dog doing stuff, kidneys help. So it's a lot. And that's how life is. You can't take things and just do things one at a time. You can have a priority set, but you have to be willing and ready for the unexpected and the unknown. So I think she put that into perspective for me. How to just be more, in a sense, productive too, and not just talk about what needs to be done, but putting that action with it.
Any other thoughts, Mia?
I was waiting for like a definite solution, but I think that the overall thing that she kept saying, well, she wasn't saying a lot, but it's funny when she did say it, because she said she sees it everywhere, is balance. And it's making sure you have your priorities. What did she say? A priority list?
Yeah, she said, identify your priorities, set them, keep them, love them.
Yeah, that part. So yeah, I guess that's a way to kind of have a balance.
But then she also says something about how balance. She didn't say it's not a thing that you should do, but it's, would you say to someone, oh, you should try and balance it, and that makes them upset? I don't think I've ever become upset if anyone said that to me. I probably have. Because I feel like I'm doing my very best with something and I'm trying to get everything done. And it's like, oh, well, maybe just try and balance things out. Like, what's going on. So
Right.
I get it.
I do hate that.
So I can see why it's like, how do you know? And that's another thing. Whenever you're trying to balance out your life and be a superwoman, other superwomen or friends of that nature, they have their own superwoman things going on. And it's hard. Your battle and the things that you're doing is the things that you're doing. So you can't really look at someone else's superwoman abilities and be like, well, you should do this, because you can't really speak for them and what they're going through and how they're handling things. So I definitely can see how that's an issue when you try to be like, oh, put your 2 cents in on how this person should be doing things better. You got to tread lightly with that, I think.
Yeah. And then on the opposite end, as Black women, we all have our superwoman things going on. So then we don't want to put our burdens on someone else.
That part too.
Because we know that they, in being a superwoman, they will help us. But we know that they're just as bogged down as us. But I think that that's where in building a community of support can help with the addition of each person prioritizing. And when watching the video this time, it reminded me of the Eisenhower method that we talked about before, and giving things their value, like where they go, and allowing that to help us to realize where it fits in our lives, or if it even should fit in our lives. So like, if we have something that we need done right away, it takes priority and precedence, then we can focus on that. Whereas something else that may come up, as life does, that may be a priority but has time, we can go ahead and give it that time, or more so give ourselves that time to get to it later, because we know that we need to prioritize this and go ahead and put them in those places. And then also, as a superwoman, not taking on the stereotype of being a yes woman and being able to say no and be okay with the no. And I like how she said at the beginning, or kind of towards the middle, where a lot of, or sometimes, maybe not a lot of times, I won't speak for everyone, but sometimes we may be like, oh no, I don't want to say no because then everyone will be mad. And she's like, well, no, it won't necessarily be everyone. It will be a certain set of people who we respect and whose opinion we value. And really taking that time to address our inner monologue, what you call it, our private logic, taking time to examine that and really give ourselves the opportunity to advocate for ourselves and be like, they may be upset, but and this does matter to me, them being upset. However, if this will overload me, being someone who supposedly cares about me, they should be able to handle it. Or maybe it's not a no, but a not yet. We can include that as well, because sometimes we can just be like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. And we may in our heads somewhere subconsciously be like, I can't do this right now, but we don't necessarily say that out loud. But I'm personally trying to be more intentional about giving a slow yes. And in that slow yes, prioritizing, okay, I do want to do this for them. Where can I fit this? Where can I make sure that I can show up as my best self for them? Because if I just try to jump in and do this now, yeah, I'll get it done for them. And yeah, it may be better than average, but if it's not my personal best, then I don't need to take it on. And that's okay. And I think the part about that's okay is where we get caught up sometimes and forget, because it's someone that we care about, someone that we love, someone that we may be taking care of. But is it really a need right now? Is it something that we need to prioritize above ourselves or what we need? I think we need to give ourselves that time to assess and be real with ourselves and advocate for ourselves.
I also think what she said also about finding your voice, that's important, because I mean, you need to be able to relay these things, like just being a yes person, and you may need to say no. Finding your voice to be able to express why you can't say yes, or like, not to say you got to sit there and tell your whole business, but I mean, giving that explanation, that brief explanation as to why you may need to say no to something or can't take on everything that you're accustomed to, it gives an understanding of as to why you do need to scale back. And you can hopefully a better way to not disappoint those people. If you're having an issue like, oh, if I say no, then they're going to be mad. Well, find your voice, explain why you can't, and hopefully better understand why you can't.
Mm-hmm. And in the article, she gives a few ways to help to approach. I want to say balance, but then I don't want to say balance. That's what we just talked about. But finding a way to uncape as a superwoman. I'll say it like that. And she does say boundaries as one of them. Is we need to stand by our boundaries. And that's something that we've definitely discussed before, and how your boundaries are not against anyone, but they are for you, to help you to be who you want to be, your essential self more. I love these keywords that she used in the video, essential versus your social self. I had never really thought about that, but there is a difference, especially among superwomen. There is that difference between who you are essentially, what you need, what you want to do, who you want to be, versus who and how you show up in society and how you're perceived. And being a superwoman, a lot of times you may not show up as your essential self because you want to be perceived and received a certain way. And a lot of times that causes you, or may cause you, to want to not respect your own boundaries or priorities, but really to show up as your best self, which is what will benefit everyone. You need to have those boundaries and priorities in place. You all right there, Mia?
Oh, I forgot I was unmuted. I gotta stop doing that. My bad. Y'all at work too.
Oh, do you have any thought?
Nah. I mean, hold on. No, I think boundaries does play a lot in that. Because I was watching this TD Jakes thing, and he was talking about how that we take on so much, and sometimes we take on things that we don't need to take on. And if we're only giving like a small percentage of ourselves to that thing, that we need to drop it all together because it's not benefiting us. And that percentage that we're giving to that could be given to the stuff that we do need to really focus on. So that's kind of what that reminds me of, is knowing that, hey, you know what? I can't do this. I can't do everything, like I know I said I would help you. I had every intention on helping you, but honestly, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I mean, it's not gonna work out. So it's yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's about that. So I agree.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Either being able to give a slow yes, or take your time in really evaluating if you can say yes, and if you need to say no up front, or if you realize later on, even after you said yes, if you need to say no, say no. Like, find your voice in either aspect.
Yeah,
Because
that
again, oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say yeah, because sometimes it's maybe not right away.
Mhm.
You may have had some time in the beginning to really help. But then as time progressed, that time that you had, you don't have anymore. So
Mhm.
now you got to reevaluate it and say, hey, you know what? I really don't have that time anymore to help with this. So, but it's so hard to do. Like, that is so easier said than done, because I know me, myself personally, I'll still be trying to figure out a way. I'm like, you know what? You carried a one and then you minus. I could still do this, around
I'm
midnight.
the same way.
I
Yeah.
probably only get 2 hours of sleep, but it can happen, you know.
Mhm. I
So
feel you. And for me, what has helped me with that is adopting the mindset of, if I can't do it at my best self, then I'm not benefiting me or them, truly. So it's best that I go ahead and remove myself. And if I can, I'll find someone else or some way else that it can be handled. So I'm not just giving them back a problem. I'm giving them back a no and solution.
yeah, if you can give back a no and that's always, that's always what would be ideal. That's ideal. Because, when we do give them back whatever it was and it's not done to completion, there's an attitude in there. There's a feeling some type of way in there. You know? And you're like, "Oh, I tried. I tried. I really wanted to." So, if you can give it back with and that's amazing. That's awesome. I've never been able to do that, so I usually take it back. I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I said I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. And just like what TDJ said, if you're not giving yourself to that, if you're at a low percentage, and it's not benefiting nobody.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
agreed.
Mhm. So what I want us to take a moment to do, I already have it in my head, but I still want you all to think through it, is your answer that you can give someone, to give yourself time and space to give a slow yes or no. So like,
What?
someone asks you, hey, can you help with such and such? Don't be so quick to be like, yes. So what can be your answer, your go-to that you can use to give yourself the time to really determine, can this be a priority, and does this fit my boundaries?
Let me get back with you on that. That's it. That's my answer. Let me get back with you on that. Let me see what I got going on. I'll be having a lot going on. Yeah, I know you be having a lot going on. Yeah, let me see. Let me see what I got going on before I give you an answer.
Mhm.
The answer right
Mhm.
now is no.
I know you're
And
not
don't
saying
take
the
it
last
personal because I'm
part.
knowing to everybody.
I know that last part you ain't really gonna say, but do you really see
Girl,
yourself being
how
able to
I'm
say the
feeling
first
right
part?
now. how I'm feeling, you know, girl. That's how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling like, hey, right now is no, because I see my plate and that cup is running over.
Oh, we lost B.
Oh,
Maybe she'll be able to come back in a moment. But yeah, but really, do you really see yourself being able to use the first part?
the first part, yes. The second part, maybe. I need to. Girl, I don't feel it though. But yeah, yeah. No, I stopped picking up projects. I gotta put this part-time job down, you know, real quick. That's not real quick. I gotta do it next week. I'm giving myself a deadline next week. I'm gonna finish up this last thing I have to do for her, and I'm gonna have to give away that job because I just can't dedicate no time to it, and that time needs to be dedicated to something else. So now I'm not picking up no more projects for a while. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna tell people. The way my bank account is set up, I would love to say yes, but it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. No, I'm just kidding. I gotta evaluate some stuff to see if it's possible. That's what I'll say. I just have to evaluate some stuff to see if it's possible.
I like that. I like that. As it to what B was saying, it kind of gives an explanation, but it's still like, I can't tell you everything, but you know that I know that we know I got things happening already. So let me make sure that I can do this. I like it. I like it. B, what's yours?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you were saying, so that's why I hung up and came back. So I don't know what you were asking.
Oh, okay. Yes, I was saying, what can be your answer when someone asks you something that will allow you a little bit of space and time to give your yes or no, allow you some time to be able to evaluate for yourself if you can make a priority and if it fits your boundaries.
What I typically say is something to the effect of what Mia said. I may not say, let me evaluate some things, but I'm like, if I know it's something that I can't agree to or that I need to discuss or think about, I mean, I guess I say things like, let me think about it. Let me get back to you or maybe I need more details. No, I'm not gonna ask more details. If I know I don't know if I can do it, I'm just really gonna say, let me make sure that it's something that I can do before I say yes. I don't want to obligate myself to something and I can't. I don't want to let you down. So let me let you know if I can.
Mm-hmm.
So something to the effects of that, just to try and let them know, like, hey, I would love to help you, but I can't do it at the extent that I can't get what I have already obligated myself to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so do you see yourself being able to use that even with those closest to you, those that you may not already be utilizing it with?
Yes, because me being a yes man or yes woman it's been something that I've always struggled with. So I've already been practicing how to say no or not overbook myself in a sense for things. I've been practicing that. So it has become much easier to, even with people that are closest to me, for me to be like, hey, I'm gonna still do this, or let me see if I can do this. And I just jump the gun and be like, yes, I'm definitely 100% in. I'm gonna do it. Like I am better at maneuvering around to evaluate if I can take that on or not.
Awesome. Okay. That's what I like to hear. All right. What was I saying? Yeah, where we were. Okay. So I do have one more video, and she goes into a few additional additional things that you can do to help with the Superwoman complex, but she comes at it from the perspective of the imposter syndrome. And it was mentioned in another video, but I had never really connected the two. But in how she delves into it, I can kind of see how the Superwoman complex is actually a form of imposter syndrome, which is something that I am actually still myself thinking through. But I will let you all evaluate that for yourselves. But before we get into that, I did want to share a few other ideas that came from the article, The Black Superwoman Complex, about ways to help with taking off the cape. And she more so comes from a way to support superwomen. So I'm kind of flipping them because she's a therapist. So I think she's writing it from the standpoint of those supporting superwomen, giving them understanding of it and how they can help. But in applying it from the superwoman standpoint, I would say a few things that she gave that stood out were finding your support. So finding those spaces, which I hope this is one where you feel safe and are able to not just relieve your stresses, but able to actually take a true look at what it is that you're facing and what it is at the core of it that's causing you to be operating in a possibly unhealthy way, and finding the resources or help to get you back to more of a healthier way of operating. So an example she gave was a mother who would leave her job early, go pick up her kids, go take them home, make sure they had something to eat, and worried about them as she's going to her second job. And she was saying, if I just went off of what I saw happening, I would suggest, or I would assume that it's a money issue, and I would try to help her that way. When really, for this particular mother, her issue was actually the concern for her kids and their safety. And so, and in taking the time to understand that, she was able to provide options for resources that would help her, such as after school care, and that will provide transportation for the kids from school there, and was open during the hours that she needed so that she could have that support and that need taken care of to relieve some of that superwoman energy. And another, she put it as a separate point, but it kind of goes together with that, understanding the drive, understanding your drive, and how, as we talked about earlier, sometimes you do like that go, 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 you know, aspect of your superwoman complex, but you still want to make sure that you're not go, go, going in excess in a way that can cause damage to you, either mentally or physically, because even still, statistically, physical and mental illness are on a rise for Black women. And in this article, she does attribute that in partial to the Superwoman complex. So it definitely is something that we do really need to make priority for ourselves so that we can be and remain our best selves. And another one we've already talked about was learning to say no and respecting your own boundaries. So just wanted to toss those out there before we get into this last video here.
When you look at yourself in the mirror, what is it that you say to yourself? What is it that you see? That was the first question asked of me by my spiritual advisor. Well, I said, people say I'm a great speaker. They say I'm a great leader. No, she interjected. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what is it that you say to yourself? What is it that you see? A bit confused as to why she had rejected my first response, I decided to give her the same answer, but using different verbiage. So I go in and I'm like, well, people say I have the potential of being a great leader. I have the potential of being a great speaker. Brianna, she said in a stern yet compassionate tone, what is it that you say to yourself? After about 5 minutes of silence, tears start to stream down my face, and I simply respond, I hate myself. After that session, I started asking myself, why is it that all of the things that other people find remarkable in me are invisible to me? It wouldn't be until about a month later that I learned that there was a term associated with how I had been feeling, and that term is imposter syndrome. In a study by Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes titled The Imposter Phenomenon in High-Achieving Women, they define imposter syndrome as an internal feeling of intellectual phoniness, where, despite professional and academic accomplishments, one still feels as if they are not bright and that they fooled anyone who thinks otherwise. I remember before learning out about the word imposter syndrome, the word I would use to describe my feelings was poser. And I would always say, I feel like I do a good job living up to their beliefs, knowing that I don't truly live up to their beliefs. So when I first found out about imposter syndrome, I was legit consumed with research because I started to see that it affected highly accomplished people, both men and women, young and old, professionals, students, business owners, even famous people. Imposter syndrome does not discriminate. Now, earlier studies mainly focus on the impact in women, but we're starting to see that men are experiencing imposter syndrome as well. However, women of color, especially Black women, as well as the LGBTQ communities, continue to experience it at a higher rate. Because when you've dealt with systemic oppression, or you've been told directly or indirectly your entire life that you are less than, then it's difficult not to doubt your skills and abilities despite noted success. As a Black woman, I experienced this twofold because I'm not only battling with feelings of fraud from being an imposter, but I really am a fraud. And it has nothing to do with my skills and abilities. It's because for 40 hours out of the week, I can't be my authentic self at work. Even then, I still didn't feel a sense of normalcy until I read an article by the Journal of Behavioral Science, because the article estimated that nearly 70% of individuals will experience at least one episode of imposter syndrome in their lifetime. And though those episodes can manifest themselves in several different ways, today I want to speak on 3. And those 3 are the perfectionist, the superhuman, and the intellectual authentic. The perfectionists, they work super hard to ensure that their stupidity is never exposed. They strive for a 100% success rate in everything that they do, and everything from their appearance to their attitude is curated to reflect as such. And then there's the superhuman, which we all know one of these. They're the ones who say yes to everything. They accept too many assignments, and not only do they ask to be on every committee, they even offer to head those committees. The superhuman does this because it gives them a sense of job security, because they would never think that their employer has kept them on this long based off of their skills and abilities, but more so based off their inability to say no. And then there's the intellectual authentic. These are the ones where you know they have bright ideas, yet they never speak up in team meetings In fact, they just agree with everyone else's ideas because they feel that their ideas aren't worthy to be compared to those of their peers. I'm going to share a secret with you all because this, in fact, is where most of my imposter syndrome lies. And it lies behind 2 words. And those 2 words are bachelor's degree. Working in the field of higher education, I know you need more than a bachelor's degree to move up in the ranks. But must I feel inferior because I don't? I mean, I still took 4 years out of my life to earn a higher education. Yet, time and time again, when I converse with colleagues who don't know my educational background, I hear them make smart remarks such as, oh, well, so-and-so only has a bachelor's degree, or so-and-so is no competition for me because I have a master's degree. I remember a couple of years back when I thought that expanding my vocabulary would help with my feelings of imposterism. So I took to learning 1 new vocabulary word a day. After a while, I got sick of that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to let my skills, my track record, and my passion for what I do speak for me. And honestly, that's when things started to change. Because no, there's no cure for imposter syndrome, but it can be managed. Because if left unmanaged, it could not only lead to symptoms of stress, anxiety, and depression, but it could potentially yield you a smaller bank account. Because one constantly doubts their abilities, that they limit both their life and professional opportunities. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to put a cap on how much money I can make. So whenever the imposter feelings start to creep in, I do what I call a SURE check. And SURE stands for self-unbelief rooted energy. Because if my energy is rooted in unbelief, then it will always reflect through myself. So the first part of my SURE check is I call it out. Because now that I know what imposter syndrome is, I'm able to call out the lies associated with it. And it's important that we continue to talk about it because studies reveal that imposter syndrome is a big secret kept amongst those who experience it. But when shared, others find relief in knowing that they're not alone. Next, I got me a bad entourage. An entourage is just my cool way of saying support group. But my entourage not only supports and holds me accountable, but they reassure me whenever my imposter syndrome starts to kick in. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and I had shared with her that I had received an interview for TEDx. And then I went on to say, but, they're probably interviewing everyone who submitted a proposal. She stopped me dead in my tracks and said, no, ma'am, that's your imposter syndrome kicking in. You earned that interview. Then I always think, speak, and believe positively about myself. And no, this is not a motivational talk because the reality is getting wins under your belt does not help with imposter syndrome. In fact, increased success intensifies the feelings of being a fraud. And the last part of my SURE check is a quote by Henry Ford that I remind myself of daily, which simply says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So today, I want to challenge you all to do your own SURE check and get you a sheet of paper and write down all the lies that your imposter self says to you. I want you to hold that sheet of paper up in the mirror and look yourself dead square in the eye and say, dear imposter syndrome, it's a lie for me. Thank you.
All right. So how are we feeling? What did we think?
I can relate to that. And I like how she broke down the different types of women.
Yeah.
Because now when I think about it, I don't think I'm a superwoman. Because ain't no way I'm about to be a part of my kids' stuff in school and then wanna head it. I'm like, nope, that ain't me.
Well,
But the other stuff, I can relate to. She just did different categories. But that imposter syndrome, that
Yeah.
hit home because a lot of times, like I just got an associate's degree. And I don't even want to tell people sometimes or whatever, because I'll be like, even though that was an accomplishment for me because I actually finished something I started years ago, I still be like, yeah. And then a lot of times where I do get recognized for certain things, I'll be like, well, it just happened to be that, or it just, like I downplay it every time, like I don't deserve it or something like that. Especially at work when I know I deserve it here. But, I definitely understand that in imposter syndrome.
Me.
I get a floor to B.
Oh, I'm gonna still say you can have Superwoman. You can still be considered a Superwoman. Like you don't have to. There's not. I don't think. Sorry, I'm on the phone, Gordon. Sorry. There's not a set list of things that you have to do. And I don't even know all the things that you do in your life, Mia, but I do know a lot. And the amount of things that you take on your plate, the hats you wear, definitely Superwoman qualities. I think it just depends on what Superwoman things you're doing or what list of things you're doing that qualify you for that. As far as being what was it? What is it?
Syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Definitely got that. Because it's about trying to prove something to myself and to other people, and just I don't even know. But when she said that, I got quiet. I'm over here. I'm sitting here watching dishes. I just looked at her like, yeah. Totally me. I don't know. That's not something that I know how to fully overcome. Because I just didn't know what it was called. But now I have a name for it. Well, that's what I've been doing. I don't know how to overcome it fully though.
And I don't know that it's really something that we can fully overcome, because even in her sharing, she was saying,
she said there's no
when
cure.
it pops up, it's not so much of a if, it's when it pops up, because it's that I would say is a part of our own private logic. That would be the other speaker shared, because she defined her private logic as what we craft in our minds, and I added that it can be tainted by imposter syndrome. So it's something that I would believe you want to be aware of, but maybe not think that it's something that you need to conquer, because it's something that's just going to be around. But she did say the few ways that when it does pop up, she meets it with her sure check. And she said her sure check stands for self unbelief rooted energy. So when the imposter syndrome pops up, you can remember that it's self unbelief rooted energy. And that's not something that you want to entertain. So in that case, then you can meet it with these tactics. And she shared that how she addresses it is sharing those beliefs with others who will help to validate her and also encourage her in overcoming feeling like an imposter, or help her to realize that it is imposter syndrome, and that she faces those unbelieving thoughts with thinking, speaking, and believing positively about herself. And then she also reminds herself daily, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So remembering that you are what was it that the first video said? The master of your
fate, the captain of your soul.
master of fate, captain of your soul. So you have the control over your mind. Even when negative thoughts seep in, you have the choice to either let that thought fester and grow or to cut it down at the root. Or even if it's already taken roots, you can pull those roots out. But it takes intentional mindfulness and also the way that works for you in combating it. So personally, I think that this thinking, speaking, and believing positively about yourself is a strong and important aspect of facing that imposter syndrome, as well as having those around you who will build you up and sometimes maybe even, help you up when you're facing it.
Like
Any
she
other
said,
thoughts?
the entourage, having that support system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No entourage. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, no more thoughts on that. I do want to check back with you, Mia. Do you feel like you've gotten some possible ways to address I will say address instead of correct, address the Superwoman complex or the imposter syndrome? Because again, they are connected. How she described it in the last video, she pretty much the superhuman is pretty much the superwoman. So she describes the superwoman complex as a form of imposter syndrome. But yeah, so do you feel like you have some greater insight in how to address it?
Sure. I mean, kind of.
Okay.
I think it's more of a practice.
Yeah.
It's taking the insight and applying it and seeing what will actually work.
Right.
I think more than anything, it is now being able to identify what it looks like, what it is, and different ways to try to not cope, but help with it. Because at the end of the day, this was very insightful. Because it was descriptions put in here and logic put in here that I didn't even consider. So in a sense, yeah. But it is something that I know that I would have to continuously work on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it really is, whichever way you look at it, however you look at it, it's all inner work, really. So yeah, you're definitely right. Something that you all have to make a practice of. And B, any last thoughts from you?
You said any last thoughts?
Yeah.
Last thoughts?
Yeah.
Just kidding. I think it's you have to. I always say you have to take things a day at a time. Everything that you try and instill and change about yourself, is a process. It's not something that you can do overnight. Like, oh, flip a switch, I'm about to do this now. So it is something that you have to work on and be in the mind frame to want to make those changes. So if you're having the, issues with imposter problem, or imposter syndrome, no, we know it's not something that you can get rid of, but it's about making the conscious decision to do something about it. Which, if you are determined enough and want to see that change, that's enough that's enough right there to get the ball rolling with implementing what you need to do to see some change in that. But again, everybody's different. So you can give advice, or I can give advice from blue in the face, but everything works for people differently. And I guess it really just depends. That's how I see it. But sometimes I can give myself advice about things or give other people advice. And we all say that it's hard to take what you or do what you say, what you feel is right. I don't know. That's how I see it. It has to be a decision that or a change that you want to do, and the dedication that you put into seeing it through.
Yeah. And really seeing what works for you in making the change.
Right.
All right. Well, that is all that I have for us today. As always, I do thank you for time that we have had together. I do want to pray us out. Are there any prayer requests? Nope. Okay. All right. So, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time that we have had together and for the understanding and insight that we have gained as Lord God, that it truly be able to resonate with us and give us greater understanding in ourselves and in the way that we are operating, and in ways that we can help ourselves to operate in a way that will be healthier, more beneficial to us. And we pray, Lord, that you would continue to guide us and give us even greater wisdom and understanding the path you would have us to go, and growing in being the women that you would have us to be. Thank you, Lord, that we do have each other to support each other, to speak life into each other, to encourage each other, to love on each other. And I pray that it only continue to grow between us and the other bold beauties that we have the sheer privilege to be in touch with and encounter. And I pray, Lord, that you will bless the rest of our day and going into this weekend, that they will be prosperous, and that we will have our best week yet in the week to come. Anything I've left unmentioned, unsaid, or unthought of, I lift it up to you and call it done and so. I thank you, Lord God, for health and strength from the top of our heads to the soles of our feet. I thank you, Lord, that we are healthy and whole. And those who may currently be battling sickness, Lord God, I thank you that you will bring them healing, and a speedy recovery. And it's in Jesus' name I do pray. Amen. All right. You all You're welcome. You'll have an amazing rest of your day.
You too. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you in person next month. We will be doing it the first week of August, which will be the 6th. All right. Well, I'll be sending out the details, so you can let me know. And yeah, have a great day. Talk to you later.
Too.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye, guys.
Bye.